And we're back. The hands of his watch move with agonizing slowness, as though counting down to the end of the world. In the hours since contacting Ryoko, Koji went back to his apartment, showered, changed clothes, and even had his first full meal in days. He wanted to take a nap, knowing that he needed to rest, but no matter how hard he tried, sleep never came. Forcing himself to relax only made his nerves colder and sharper. With nothing else to do, he decides to wander the city until nightfall. Downtown Tokyo is bustling, surrounded by smiling pedestrians, bright lights, and windows decorated early for Christmas. It feels as if all the happiness in the world has been gathered in this very place. Koji takes it all in, burning it into his memory like it's the last thing he'll ever see. Is the world so beautiful because of the horrors that lurk in its shadows? The glow of the city can no longer warm him. Perhaps that is why it seems so precious. Koji watches over the city for hours, feels unreachably distant, like reading the obituary of someone you loved long ago. His phone rings at 8 p.m. It's Ryoko. The conversation is short. She hangs up as soon as they decide where to meet. And so ends Tono Koji's final night of peace. Oh boy. Ryoko arrives at the diner at 1 a.m., 1 hour later than agreed upon. She has a heavy-looking duffel bag under her arm. Koji doesn't feel like asking what the bulges represent. Ryoko doesn't sound at all apologetic, but Koji decides to just nod expressionlessly. Only a few tables are filled at this hour, like lonely islands in the midst of the vast restaurant. After sending the bleary-eyed waitress away with an order for 2 coffees, Koji and Ryoko are left all alone in the corner of the dining area. He's smoking too. I would too in this situation. So, did you find out what you were looking for? Koji asked bluntly while sipping dutifully from his 3rd cup of watery, tasteless coffee. In the silence that follows, Koji tries to soothe his parched throat with another mouthful of weak coffee. Ryoko mutters. It's obvious that her grimace isn't for the coffee. Koji asks, his tone almost confrontational. Ryoko tries to ignore Koji's question by nursing her coffee, but that only works until the cup is empty. Staring at the brown stain at the bottom of her cup, Ryoko says, her voice hard and flat. Nah, that shit ain't happening. Koji replies, smiling bitterly instead of glaring at her like he did before. Oh jeez. Ryoko continues with a disparaging smirk. That's all? The things that Fuminori has done are so horrifying that Koji's only recourse, his only hope of coping, is to kill the man who was once his friend. Yet despite that, Ryoko makes his nightmare sound like just the beginning. Koji still doesn't understand where her morbid cynicism comes from, nor does he want to. Her brusque tone says that she doesn't care whether or not Koji is satisfied with her
今
explanation.
ならまだ時間が君の傷を癒してくれるだろう。君は最後の一線を踏み越えていない。
Koji considers Ryoko's words calmly, without letting himself get emotional like before. The final line, true, Fuminori is somewhere beyond that. Although Koji has gone far enough to be willing to kill Fuminori, he has no intention of eating his enemy's flesh once he's dead. That at least still separates the two. Then what about Ryoko, who has treated Koji like an ignorant fool ever since she saved him from the well? How close is she to Fuminori?
先生の傷は俺よりも深いと。
In response to Koji's biting question, Ryoko's mocking smile turns inward.
この銃はね、実家の父のものなんだ。
Oh? Ryoko pats one of her duffel bags, bulges.
こいつがロッカーから消えたせいで、父は責任を問われて地元の猟友会から除名させられた。
Oh?
申し訳ないと思ってるよ。私は両親にとっては自慢の娘なんだ。それが金庫の銃を盗み出すなんて想像もしてないだろう。
そうするだけの必要が先生にはあったと。
いいや、全然。
Her quick denial isn't what Koji was expecting.
その頃にはもう外のことは一見落着していた。少なくとも私はそう思っていた。奴は姿を消したきり、もう二度と私の前には現れないだろうと安心してた。この銃で何かを撃とうとか殺そうとか、そういう必要があるわけじゃない。
I have a feeling.
じゃあなぜ
眠れなかったんだよ。ただそれだけ。
Ryoko pauses, perhaps needing time to decide how best to explain.
それまではベッドサイドにナタを隠しておいたんだ。
Ah, I see. Okay.
夜一人で部屋にいるのが耐えられなくてね。
She continues choosing her words carefully.
どんなに世界が底抜けにめちゃくちゃになっていこうと、悲鳴を上げて逃げ回る以外の選択肢が自分にはあるんだって。
Understandable.
そう納得させるためにはね、部屋の中に何か一つ頼りになる武器を置いておきたかった。
ああ
Yep. Koji doesn't know what to say. He's amazed, impressed. He's impressed even that someone with such a serious case of delusional paranoia could function as one of the T University's top
で
doctors.
もそれじゃ大した効き目はなかった。悪夢は日ごとにひどくなっていく一方で、安眠するにはナタじゃまだ足りなかったんだ。それで父の銃を盗んできた。
Huh.
こんな風に重心を詰めるとね、散弾がもっと広範囲に飛び散るようになって。
More damage? I mean, more area damage, but they do less, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter if it's a shotgun.
アメリカでも重罪になる改造なんだと。
Hey, okay, good, I was right. Yeah, it's true.
私はそれをクローゼットの奥に突っ込んで、それでようやく眠れるようになったよ。
Yeah.
3日に一晩ぐらいはね。
Huh. At this point, Ryoko seems to have gotten everything off her chest, smiling like someone who just finished a hard job, she adds.
銃はいいよ、本当に。
Based? She's spoken like a true American.
相手に向かってぶっ放すもよし、それでダメなら自分の口に突っ込んで引き金を引くっていう選択肢もある。
Man, she's a little wacko.
先生は専門家の治療を受けるべきです。
Yep.
端的な感想ありがとう。でもね、君だって他人事じゃなくなるよ。これ以上先に進むんならね。
Kochi's already doubtful that meeting with Ryoko was the right thing to do. The one thing that he and Ryoko have in common is an unwillingness to leave Fuminori to the proper authorities. Fuminori not only killed Koji's lover and friend, but even went so far as to defile their corpses. Koji isn't about to give him the chance to get off on an insanity plea. No matter what crimes he must commit, Koji will end Fuminori with his own two hands. If he doesn't, he knows that he will never sleep again. It helps to have a partner in crime, but only when that partner doesn't cause trouble. Roko talks big about exposing Ogai's secrets, but she might just have a head full of delusions. If so, Koji needs to rethink this whole thing.
この先全てを先生に任せろというのなら、先生のことを信用させてください。
Koji says with unflappable determination.
先生をそこまで追い詰めるほどのものが、オーガイっていう男にあったという証拠。
I'm actually
彼が
curious,
何をしでかしたのか、
because
全
like,
て俺に見せてください。
so far it's like, yeah, this is fucked up, but it's like, nah. It was apparently more fucked up before.
そこまで言うかね。まったく。
Mataku. Roko smirks and shakes her head ruefully, but puts up no further resistance. She pulls a stack of paper from her bag and hands it to Koji. The loose leaf sheets are bound with string.
一行読んだら続きは次のページの同じ行だ。まあ、触りだけでも読んでみるといい。
Yeah, this information, I know this. As directed, Koji looks through the handwritten pages and gives up after less than 3 minutes.
怪奇 SF の走行か何かですか。罪のない悪ふざけですね。彼にはこんな子供っぽい趣味があったわけだ。
Koji deliberately scoffs at the document, doing everything he can to show contempt for what he just read. At the same time, he tries desperately not to remember the mountain of bones in Ogai's bathtub and the unidentifiable smell permeating Fuminori's house.
1年前、オーガイがうちの大学に持ってきた資料も、その文章と同じぐらい突拍子もないものだった。
Huh? Roko says, coldly ignoring Koji's disdain.
奴は大学の機材を無断で使ってこっそり検査をしようとしたらしい。だがドジを踏んで露見した。そこから先はもう大騒ぎで
Yeah,
ね。
what did happen there?
オーガイが使おうとした機材から察するに、奴はそいつを P3 レベルのバイオハザードとして取り扱うつもりだったらしい。
Okay.
その程度の用心で十分だったのかどうかも知れたもんじゃないんだが、近隣の住民を退去させるべきだったんだが、
Huh?
まあそこは偉い人たちが偉い人なりに頑張って全部なかったことにしてくれたよ。その代わり私たちはキャンバス中のネズミを一匹残らず駆除する羽目になった。
Oh, the rats.
ネズミとかつてネズミだった何かをね。
What did the rats become? At their first meeting, Roko brushed Koji off when he asked about Ogai Masahiko. Now, however, she's telling the whole story. Her voice is flat and emotionless as a
事の
machine's.
究明には結局皆がサジを投げた。オーガイが持ち込んだ資料がどういう起源のものなのか誰にも突き止めることができなかった。まあ結局みんな賢明だったわけだ。理性は理性、ざれ言はざれ言、
Huh.
そういう線引きを危うくしない
What were those
って
rats?
ものを心得ていた。でもあいにく当時の私はそこまで賢明じゃなかった。
Yeah. Roko pauses for a moment, then grins with self-disdain so maniacal that it strikes Koji like a blow.
あれこれ探って暴き出して、私はオーガイが何をしていたのか知った。彼が関わっていた連中や彼をそそのかした連中も突き止めた。仲と添い寝するようになったのはその頃からだ。この世の理性ってものがどんなにタガの緩んだ穴だらけの頼りない代物なのか理解するようになったのはね。
Huh? As though fleeing from the quiet insanity that he keeps glimpsing in Ryoko, Koji finds himself paging through the loose leaf in his hands. He reads a line at random. The organism's flesh is not fibrous, but reticulated. Put simply, it is an extremely tough substance that expands and contracts not in one direction, but in all directions. This means that slashing or piercing damage has very little effect, since the flesh can contract in any direction freely, Any wound will be sealed instantly. It's nonsense. What else can it be? If he lets himself believe it, then everything else, all the logical rules that define the world, will be rendered meaningless.
じゃあ先生は信じるんですね、この内容を。
疑う理由なんてとっくの昔に見失ったからね。
Ryoka reaches into her duffel bag again, this time removing a stainless steel thermos that looks able to hold about 300 cc's of liquid. That's a weird way to explain it. 300 milliliters, that's what that is. I know, not 300, 500. That's the number 500 there. It's a normal, like, water bottle size.
こいつが鞘を倒す切り札だ。調達するのに手間取ったが、多分こいつはてきめんに効く。
What is it, like sulfuric
つ
acid?
いていけません。
And it wouldn't be a water bottle like thing. Oh, I wonder what it is. Koji snaps, no longer able to disguise his frustration.
鞘が何だろうともうどうでもいいです。俺は文則を終わらせることができればそれでいい。
そうか。
Now that she's given up on persuading him, her ascent is swift and cold. At this moment, Koji's fate has likely ceased to matter to her.
いいだろう。君は先坂文則を仕留めるために全力を尽くすといい。また君の邪魔はしないし、君が仕損じた時にはきっちりと私が帳尻を合わせてやる。
Despite the determination in her voice, Koji can't bring himself to trust this paranoid doctor completely.
あなたの持ち合わせている理由で文則を殺せるんですか？
潔癖症なんだよ、私は。ああやって人の世界の拉致外に隠れ住んでいるような奴らが我慢ならない。奴らは寝室のゴキブリだ。枕元でカサコサ這い回る音を無視して眠れるか。見
Damn.
つけ次第殺して駆逐する。そうせずにはいられない。私の精神衛生上の問題だ。
That's an interesting way to put it. Her reasons are similar to Koji's own. He doesn't want to bring a murderer to justice, nor does he want to revenge for Omi and Yo. If he did, he could have left everything to the police. The reason he can't is that the villainous Fuminori, the man he believed was his friend, has turned his whole world upside down. Everything and everyone with a part in this madness is to blame, and that includes himself for allowing the betrayal. His self-loathing, his desire to destroy, is what's keeping him on his feet.
さあ、それじゃあチェックメイトに駒を進めよう。先坂君を呼び出すといい。
Koji nods, pulls out his cell phone, and calls his friend for what will probably be the last time. The call goes through quickly. Fuminori must have been waiting for it.
待たせたな、文則。こっちの準備は整った。
Fuminori must have been quite anxious to hear from Koji. His voice is hard and completely emotionless.
お前のすぐ背後とでも言っておこうか。
Nice. Koji can't help but smile at Fuminori's disappointment. Perhaps Yuroko's maniacal sadism has rubbed off on him.
で、筑波を解放する決心はついたのか？背に腹は変えられない。
He's lying, Koji thinks, remembering the contents of Fuminori's refrigerator. Just what part of Yo did you eat, huh? Did you carve that poor girl up like a pig? No, not her, the other girl.
お前は集めた資料の全てを証拠ともども持っておく。その内容を見て納得できたら、僕らはYoを引き渡す。いいだろう。場所は？まずは大線の Y 駅まで来い。そこでお前が一人なのを確認してから、詳しい場所を教える。念の言った話だな。妙な細工はなしだ。45分以内に来い。
Okay. Fuminori hangs up without waiting for Koji's response.
俺が単独なのを確認するまで居場所は教えないつもりみたいです。
ただの医大生にしちゃ心得てるな。関心だ。
Yoko's praise sounds serious, drawing a glare from Koji.
私の車はここに置いていこう。トノー君、 君の
Oh,
車のトラ
jeez.
ックに人一人が入る隙間はあるかい？
大丈夫ですか？しょぼですよ。映画の見過ぎですよ。
そんじょそこいらの映画よりは危険な冒険なんだよ、これは。
With those bold words, Ryoko grabs her duffel bag and rises from her seat.
で、この店を待ち合わせに選んだのは君だったな。
そうですか。何か？
コーヒーの責任を取れ。
She says and tosses him the check. Okay. Oh boy. Even after Koji arrives at Y Station as directed, Fuminori calls him and makes him change locations 3 more times. Koji is beginning to doubt that Fuminori is watching. He might just be using the time to guess when Koji arrives at each designated location. Nevertheless, Koji can't let his guard down. Fuminori might choose any moment to make sure that he's alone. If he makes a mistake and puts Fuminori on alert, Ryoko will lose her chance to take him by surprise. She'll just have to put up with the cramped trunk for a little while longer. After the nature preserve and the dry riverbed, the 4th location to which Fuminori sends Koji is in the thick forest at the top of the foothills, high above the developed area at their base. His car's GPS shows a road that leads nowhere, but according to Fuminori, there should be an old abandoned sanatorium there. The park and river were empty this late at night, but during the day would likely have considerable traffic. This time, however, his instinct is telling him that it's definitely a place that no one could find, not even by accident. It looks like this is the final stop. Koji drives up the steep incline, soon leaving the residential neighborhood behind. Even though the hands of progress are right at its doorstep, the undeveloped forest is darker than he expected. This looks like a great place to live in secret, or to kill someone and hide the body. Places like this, lost and forgotten, aren't found only in the deep jungles and hidden valleys. Holes in the world are everywhere, even in the midst of civilization. Broken down gatepost suddenly appears in Koji's headlights like a ghost rising from the darkness. It looks like this is the final stop. He rolls up the gate and turns off the engine, giving himself to the silence of the forest. His phone starts ringing almost immediately. He doesn't need to check who it's from.
着いたぞ。あ、聞こえてた。ようこそ我が新居へ。
Ah, Fuminori is nearby, close enough to hear the sound of the engine. A shiver of excitement shoots up Koji's spine.
中に入ってこいよ。ようも待ってる。
Oh. Fuminori hangs up without another word. After grabbing his new flashlight from the glove compartment and checking that the revolver is still in his pocket, Koji opens the door, making sure to pop the trunk at exactly the same time. Ooh, smart. Ryoko shouldn't need any more explanation than that. Realizing that the interior roof light will stay on and broadcast that the trunk isn't closed, Koji quickly unscrews the bulb, and then gets out of the car and deliberately slams the driver's side door hard. Mounds of trash litter the front yard, forming a serviceable barricade. Koji sees everything from small refrigerators and mopeds to huge chunks of concrete and plaster that must have been abandoned by construction workers. The fact that they could get away with leaving all this stuff behind shows just how remote this place is. Glancing sidelong at the rear of his car, Koji sees no movement inside the barely open trunk. Ryoko knows what she's doing. She'll probably wait until Fuminori's attention is focused on Koji before making her move. The moon is brighter than usual, allowing Koji to walk through the front yard without tripping on debris. Staying alert, he heads for the building beyond the mountains of trash. Something must be buried underneath the piles of garbage, because the whole yard is filled with the sharp stink of chemicals. Even the homeless probably wouldn't want to come to this place. If you need to get out of the wind and rain, there are plenty of shelters more suitable. When he reaches the gaping, doorless entrance to the building, Koji glances back the way he came. His car, parked at the gate, is hidden behind the mountains of trash. Even if Fuminori is watching from inside the sanatorium, he shouldn't be able to see Ryoko crawl out of the trunk. It looks like she'll get her chance to take him by surprise. How many times now has he stood like this, alone in some ominously silent place far removed from his everyday life? Sneaking into deathly quiet houses to find traces of unimaginable happenings has become as normal as going to class. The houses that he explored before were like freshly shed cicada shells, empty and dilapidated, but with traces of the life they had sheltered. This place, however, is different. A perfect ruin, its walls and pillars rising from the dark forest like an army of ghosts, with no sign at all that people once lived and worked here. The structure resembles a skeleton more than a shell. Time and the elements have stripped it of its formal shape, and now there is only death. Koji has gone as far as he can. This must be the final stop. What will Fuminori's next move be? He must be planning to kill Koji, but how? Just as he's about to turn on his flashlight, Koji reconsiders. If he wanders around with the flashlight on, he'll be broadcasting his exact location. That will give the advantage to Fuminori. He's probably lying in wait for him right now. He holds the light before him in his left hand, with his finger poised on the switch. In his right hand, he raises the revolver, keeping it pointed in the same direction. Now ready to fire when he turns the light on the light, Koji steps quietly into the dark room. It takes a while for his eyes to adjust, but even when they do, he has only moonlight streaming through empty windows to guide him. Everything appears gray and indistinct. However, Fuminori has to deal with the same conditions if he's hiding here. This is a battle of nerves, exhausting and deadly, where the first to make a sound and give away his position will lose. The rooms on both sides of the hallway are all open. Some are even missing their doors. Koji creeps up to each entrance, checks to make sure no one is inside, and carefully proceeds on. The stink that he noticed in the garden has changed. Now it smells more organic, like rotting meat. It's the exact same smell that filled Fuminori's house. The organism's flesh freely expands in a manner that renders piercing damage meaningless. Koji grits his teeth and forces the madman's words out of his head. What good can come of taking them seriously? This isn't the time for such useless squish. Koji freezes and stares down the hall. It was a wet sound that he heard just now, like someone dragging their feet through a swamp, and it came from the room at the end of the hall. Something is there, something alive. Koji creeps towards the sound, his light and gun at the ready. Yummy, Shaya! Squish, squish! Now it sounds like someone squeezing mud through their fingers, and as he gets closer, Koji begins to hear breathing. Could it be Fuminori? No, that's impossible. She'd be waiting for a chance to ambush Koji, not make careless noises. As he proceeds, the strange sound coming through the cracks in the concrete walls grows clearer. What? Before he knows it, he is standing on the threshold. The room is filled with a thick, viscous darkness, just like every other room that he has passed. There's more than just darkness, however. Something is there. He can hear pain breathing, like that of a wounded animal, and what sounds like sobbing. Sobbing? Oh, is it fucking Yo? Who's there? Koji whispers into the darkness. Now that he's given away his position, he might as well turn on his light. For some reason, however, Koji feels like that to do so would have disastrous consequences. The last time I heard her voice on the phone, she was sobbing. The wheezing suddenly stops. And then... whisper comes out of the darkness, though not a human voice, not by any measure. It speaks some blasphemous semblance of human words. A nightmarish flash of insight connects the dots in Koji's mind.
つくば
Can't be. Yo doesn't sound like this. She doesn't smell like this. But if it's not Yo, then how does it know his name? Why is it begging him for help? No, it can't be Yo. She's human, not some creature that slithers and hides in the shadows. Man. The thing wriggles closer. His reason cries out, imploring him to switch the light on before it's too late, or to turn and run if he cannot. But Koji is unable to make either choice. He can only call out in vain to the amorphous shape in the darkness.
つくばなのか直江まさかつくばなのか
Something soft and slimy slides over Koji's toes. And that's where I'll end it. Haha. Bye!